Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining in. Several items to cover today as usual. Probably the biggest thing, and this was the biggest thing for much of last week, but now we're right in the middle of it, is the Paycheck Protection Program. It is underway. There's obviously been some fits and starts. I'm sure you've probably all read some of the news articles over the weekend in terms of getting people into the system. Some challenges there. I've seen a mixed bag from a local perspective. There are a few people, depending on the bank, that have got into the system and been processed. We've had other institutions that have selected to wait. I know of at least a few local folks that'll be going online, if not today, tomorrow. Obviously, and this came up quite a bit last week, we talked about, but, trying to push $350 billion out the door in a very, very short time period creates massive, massive challenges. I think we know that. It seems to me like the federal government has made the choice that they would rather get the money out the door and not have the due diligence on the process, which obviously as a taxpayer concerns me. I'm sure from some of our lender perspectives it concerns them, but they've clearly made a decision that they want to try to be able to push that money out the door. So, obviously our philosophy in Shiawassee County is if the money is there, we want to make sure as many Shiawassee County businesses apply and get those dollars, because personally, I don't know how long it's going to last, at least the first tranche. I believe the latest number I heard was there was $22 billion already in the system toward that 350. And once again, I think a number of new banks are going to be coming online today. So it would not shock me if that money was either gone or nearly gone by the end of the week. So, obviously my message today is going to be the same as last week. Any business in Shiawassee County, I think should look at it, should absolutely be in conversation with their lender if they've not already. Definitely call their lender ASAP. If not, and this is an issue that we brought up a few times on the call last week, if not, please let us know. We would try to get you in touch with another one. Now, as you might imagine, most lenders right now, and this was talked about last week as well, are focused on trying to get through their existing customers first, though we are hearing a little bit more, hey, once we get done, we'd be happy to take on new ones. So I think some institutions are trying to position themselves to bring on new folks, but it really depends on the backlog of how many existing customers it's going to take to get through the system. It could be one day, it could be 5 days. I mean, I guess it just depends. So basically, I've got all of the lenders in my Rolodex on speed dial, saying, hey, when you're ready, please let us know. We definitely want to, help. So I did send everybody out over the weekend a webinar that I participated in on Friday. I sent out the presentation on that and the details. There's a webinar today at 11 that I received information on from our friends at Consumers Energy, and I passed that along to you as well. And then tomorrow, you will be getting an invitation on this. We're actually having more of a local event. Actually, it's a regional event through our I-69 Thumb partnership that is going to have a primary keynote speaker, Janice Mueller, who's the head of our Regional Small Business Development Center. Some of you on the call, I have worked with Janice. Many of you have probably worked with our local SBDC consultant, Cheryl Peterson, who's doing a great job helping companies with paperwork. But we're going to have a regional one tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It's actually going to be streamed on several platforms. including here in Shiawassee County. I believe it's going to be on the Shiawassee Regional Chamber website or Facebook page, and then some others as well. So from a local perspective, that will be an event you want to take note of. And as I said, we will be involved as well. I think I'll be available for questions. But, right now, there's still a lot of uncertainty. So anything to garner information will be very helpful. I did have a request, and this will be for maybe after the agenda is through and we get into the Q&A. I did have a request this morning from somebody, if any lenders are on the phone, how the PPP program plays in with the disaster loan program. And that's another program, once again, I talk about a lot on here. That's sort of second SBA initiative to try to help folks. This is one that has been active for many years. It's focused on helping areas that have been affected by a disaster, which at this point, the entire state of Michigan qualifies. Probably the whole country qualifies right now. But this is different than the PPP. It's not a grant. It is a loan, though there is the opportunity to get fronted $10,000 from that program very quickly to be able to help with quick capital needs. And that money is available in a grant if the loan is not approved. So it basically you get the $10,000 regardless. If it gets denied, you get to keep it as a grant. If it's a loan, you get to use it as an advance. So that is another tool out there. I've had a few people look at both. And so this will be a question for the lenders is what's the interplay between that disaster loan and the PPP. And the reason why companies are looking at that is the PPP program doesn't cover all of your expenses. There are other things you have to pay for. So there could be the possibility of doing both. So that is a question I did get this morning that some people may want to pursue that. So during the Q&A, if any lenders want to talk about that, please jump in and offer your thoughts on that. I'm going to move on from that, talk about some other programs. We did roll out a press release on Friday for the MEDC grant program. We did announce the fact that we were only able to fund about 10% of the request. We have not yet announced the companies that are receiving the grants. There's 23 in total spread out across all of Shiawassee County. The reason we have not yet announced that is they have not all filed their paperwork in order to receive the money. As soon as they all do, there will be an additional announcement on that. Hopefully in the next few days, we'll have that. In fact, we're having a call, I think at 11 o'clock today to get an update on where that stands. The loans, many of you have been asking about the loan applications you put in through MEDC. That is still in process right now. We're working with them to try to figure out the best way to handle that. The challenge is, you might imagine, and once again, for those of you who've been on the calls, a little bit of a broken record on this, but, the challenge with those loans is they only had $10 million statewide. And it's a beautiful thing what they've done in making those dollars available, but there's much more loan requests than there is loan dollars available. So we're trying to figure out right now with MEDC how that's going to get selected. And I unfortunately would anticipate very few loans, actual loans being done as a result of that. But anyone that has a loan it's not dead yet. It's still in process, and hopefully we'll get some clarity this week on how we're going to handle all of that.
Can I get into?
Actually, there was one other item I wanted to mention on the PPP, this came from a note from one of our clients actually earlier this morning, and this got brought up last week. Hazard pay. So there is and this kind of weaves into the whole unemployment issue too, and I'm going to keep bringing that up because we know there's an issue out there with the level of benefit that's being provided on unemployment, that some people may not want to leave unemployment and become rehired under the Paycheck Protection Program. So we've had some companies look at ways to entice their workers to be able to come back off of unemployment onto the Paycheck Protection Program. And so we've had a few folks that have looked at bonuses. But one this morning, and I thought it was a very interesting idea, and this might have come up last week too, this idea of hazard pay. So companies that get these dollars through the Paycheck Protection Program, they can be for, fully laid off, bring them back. It can be for companies that are still operating too. So one of the ideas out there could be to use some of the proceeds from the Paycheck Protection Program to be able to maybe bump the existing pay of workers. And how that works is, and we're getting into the weeds here a little bit, but if you notice with the application, you can actually borrow more than your normal monthly payroll. And the reason they do that, obviously, is to be able to have dollars for other things like rent and utilities. But as long as that compensation goes to your workers, you can include that. And so the idea might be if you wanted to bump, pay up, let's say you're still operating as a company and you want to offer something to your workers to keep working, a few bucks an hour or whatever, that could potentially be an eligible expense under the PPP program that you could then have reimbursed and turned into a grant. So that's just something I want to throw out there, food for thought for everybody, that, get creative, think about ways, you might be able to help if you're still operating to give your folks a little bit extra. Or if you're not operating, maybe think about a bonus or something of that nature. So this topic came up last week. It's going to come up every day as companies apply for these funds, but would welcome any comments people have during the Q&A here. Moving on, I put out a daily call for support for our hospital and PPE, personal protective equipment. And that continues. They're always certainly in need of masks and shields and gowns and other things like that. But I've been hearing over the weekend more need from other type health facilities like assisted living or home health care. Those type of locations or businesses that need access because they're dealing with an at-risk population. So there is a group that is working locally now. Some of you know Helen Howard from Respite Volunteers, Jackie Hess, a couple other people. They're trying to identify resources for that. My hope is I'll be sending out some information via email or social media, but there is greater need for masks and other things. So I just want to call your attention to that. If you know of people or if you yourself have the ability to donate above and beyond what the hospital needs, then that may be another source that could use it, places like assisted living facilities and home health care businesses. Along with that, and I put out this call every day too, we are seeing more of our companies step up to the plate in making products. We've heard about Woodard. We've heard about Crest. We've learned that our friends at National Composites, which is on Delaney Road in Owasso Charter Township, they are going to be making face shields. And I've got probably another 5 or 6 that are jumping in at different levels. They may not be ready to manufacture yet, but they're definitely looking at it. So very excited about that, very proud about that. And I will reiterate, and this was brought up a couple times last week, that there is a grant program from our friends at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation for companies that are ready to go, ready to make something, but need a little extra money to be able to tool up, maybe buy a piece of equipment or buy some material. Those grants, I believe, are between $10,000 and $150,000. I did get a note from our business development manager, Tyler DeBray-Banner, this morning. It looks like the applications will be due by 5 o'clock tomorrow. So if any companies on the phone have something they want to do, need a little capital for that, please get a hold of me ASAP, or get a hold of Tyler because that needs to get in very quickly. I know they want to turn the money around very fast. 2 more items. I also bring this up every day. I'm going to keep bringing it up. Companies that are needing workers still, please let me know. We do want to make sure we're promoting job openings that are still out there. There are people that want to work. So if you do have spots available, please email them to me, send me a social media post, and we will absolutely be happy to share. And then the last item I want to mention, this is kind of exciting. We've drawn a little bit of a following with our daily calls here, and this Wednesday morning's call, so this would be the 8th, so 2 days from now, our opening program, if you will actually be Senator Gary Peters. He will be joining us on the call on Wednesday, and we will have about 20 minutes with him on the call Wednesday. So I will be making some introductory comments. The senator will talk for about 5 minutes, and then we will have the opportunity for Q&A. Now, I've talked with a couple of you already that want to ask the senator a question, but I've got a request from them for additional questions. So we want to have questions sort of in the queue from pre-arranged speakers, if you will, so we don't have everybody trying to jump on the call and ask questions at the same time. So what I would ask of all of you, you'll be getting a note on this later today, but if you would like to ask the senator a question on Wednesday, please email that to me, and I will make sure we get you in the queue with that question. Just as I said, just to avoid having to have everybody talk over themselves on Wednesday. So I don't know how many questions we're going to be able to get through, but definitely want to try to hit as many as possible. I think it's a great honor to have a senator join our call, and kind of motivates me. I want to see if we can get our Congressman, John Molinar. We've got a great relationship with John and his team. Maybe get him on a call, as well as Senator Stabenow, so that we can stay in touch with that. So other than that, I think that hit all the big highlights. Once again, PPP is going to be a big thing today. Continue to push forward. I know a lot of folks on the phone will probably be submitting their applications. But with that, I will open it up for comments and questions.
Morning, Justin.
Hey, Justin. Don,
Yeah, Don.
well, I was just going to mention that the preliminary filings with Chemical, an email went out late last night from Chemical where it appears they're now ready and they're sending out the proper questionnaires to file. And I also got an email from Fifth Third that they're going live today.
Okay. Very good.
Hey, Justin.
And yeah.
Bob Rogers here.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, hope everybody's doing well. Just want to make mention, we went with the Oxford Bank, Brad Kirkland, and I'm happy to report that we were approved, got our confirmation number and everything all in. It was about 7 o'clock on Saturday night, I think, when it was approved. So that's first time you'll find a banker working in the middle of the night, but they did a good job for us. So if anybody doesn't have somebody or needs somebody, they know how to navigate the system.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned at the start, yeah, we got some folks that already jumped in. I'm glad to hear a couple of other locals are ready to go today. I'm just going to keep beating this drum because as I said earlier on the call, I think we're going to have, more demand in this country than there are, at least for the first tranche of money. I can't believe I'm saying that. $350 billion, it's going to be going fast, but, I think there's going to be more demand. And so what I don't want to have happen is Shiawassee County businesses miss out on this and say, man, I wish I would have gone for that. I wish I didn't miss out. So that's why I'm going to keep promoting it hard and encourage everybody to be talking to their institution as soon as possible. So anyway, who's next?
Hey, Justin, it's John from AHP.
Hey, John.
Hey, I just have more of a comment. I know we talk about all these loans and stuff, but there's also tax credits available for retaining employees during this time. There's a lot of caveats on there, but you can qualify for a $5,000 credit per employee. I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. I know it's not better than getting a loan forgiven, but there are other options available. That's all I wanted to say, Justin.
Hey, John, since you offered, would you be willing to maybe be a program speaker as soon as tomorrow with a little more detail for the listeners?
Sure, Justin, I can do that.
Okay, I'll give me the floor for just a few minutes, maybe tomorrow, so you can kind of give a little more detail on that program.
Yes, I will. Thanks for the opportunity.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Because I think you're absolutely right. Obviously we've been pushing hard on those things that are going to get capital into the hands of business, but tax credits are going to be a very important thing, I think long term, when they file their taxes, when the companies file their taxes and all that. So absolutely want to make sure our companies are aware of that. So we'll make sure you're on tomorrow's call. Additional comments and questions?
Hey, Justin, it's Bob at Michigan Iron.
Hey, Bob.
Just going to give a shout out to PNC Bank because they also worked over the weekend to get themselves online and up and running with the PPP program. So they seem to be all in.
Okay, very good. I don't know if there are, to the point I made earlier, though, I didn't want to forget to ask this again. If there are any lenders on the call, as I said, there was an inquiry I had this morning about the interplay between the disaster loan through SBA and the Paycheck Protection Program through SBA. If there's any lenders on the call, any comments or thoughts on that or how to look at that? Well, maybe the lenders are out working with all the clients right now. They're not on the call. So I was just curious if any lenders were on. So other comments or questions? Okay. Well, a little shorter call today, which is good. I'm sure things will come up over the course of the day. If anything new happens, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. But hope you all have a good Monday. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Justin.